What's up, man? What's up? This is a long awaited video. Since video one, I said I was going to tell you guys about me, more about me. You guys, I haven't introduced myself. So with that being said, man, let's get into the video. Who is Nate? So my name is Nathan Hampton. I'm 21. I graduated class of 22. I went to Meadow Creek. I played football, student athlete and things like that. But that's really, for the most part, I would say most of my friends already know that, and my, family, stuff like that. But you guys are family too. So I thought, I'm gonna bring you guys into the mix, right? So who is Nathan? AKA Big Nate, AKA Nate the Great, 21. So yeah, my name's Nate. Originally I'm actually from Memphis, Tennessee. I tell a lot of people I'm from Atlanta. I've been here for like 6, going on 7 years. I've been in Atlanta since the 8th grade, pretty much. So I've been here for some time. And aside from that, I don't always like telling people like all that, especially if I'm just, getting acquainted, or, sometimes just be a trusting, I don't be wanting to tell all my business all the time, you feel me? Going into my senior year of high school, right? I'm telling you this, guys, so you can understand like where I am right now. But mainly, most recently, where it started leading up to this point. I would say, so I graduated 2 years ago, class of 22. But going into my senior year, it was, aside from everything that happened before that, it was a very, very unique experience. I would say, very unique experience and very unique story. Going into my senior year, the summer of my senior year, I actually had to, ain't no candy coating it. I got kicked out the crib, like, for how do you say, for lack of a better term, wasn't the most healthy environment. I guess that's the candy coated version of what I'm saying. It wasn't by any means a good situation. So it was kind of hard, but it was also a blessing, because it really wasn't a good, or it wasn't really a good, it wasn't gonna set me up for any future success at all. I was dealing with things, a lot of messed up situations going on with like me and my parents or parent. That was a real bad situation. I was 18, so I graduated a year late. I was, as far as high school goes, I was on track and everything, but it was the year in middle school that was a grade I got set back or whatever. So I graduated at 19. But that summer, right? That summer going into my senior year, I knew I was finna have to leave. Like, I knew I was getting kicked out, and it was a blessing. I was honestly, frankly, like, I couldn't wait to get out. Like, but I was trying to have a plan leading up to it. I was just trying for the longest, knowing that it was gonna happen. I was trying to work, get some money, so I could have something for me, like to plan my next move. But fortunately, leading up to that, I didn't really have much of a solid plan that I could stick to. So that led me to not really any options. I remember the day that I did get kicked out the crib, because my parent was trying to kick me out at like 17, like way before 18. Like the toxic house situation, they I'm not gonna touch on it too much in this video, but rather than accepting like that they weren't really the best as a parent, I'm not gonna say, but it was just easier for them to push people away, or just get rid of them, being my situation. But hey, look, we're not talking about it in a light where it's like, oh, I want you to feel bad for me, this, that, and the third. I'm just, letting you guys know, leading up. So anyways, let me get back to it. So summertime, I remember it was a day, I think it was in June. I got kicked out, and I was trying to figure out, this was like the crunch time. I had hours to figure out what I was gonna do. One of my homeboys and classmates I went to school with, actually we didn't really have many classes together, but most athletes, we know each other. Like, he was a basketball player, I was a football player. We was cool and all. And a little bit before that, like, him and his dad, like, I was hanging out with him, but his dad picked him up, and they were going to get lunch and stuff like that. And we was talking, and he got more familiar with me. Unfortunately, it was kind of uncomfortable for me, because like, I don't like talking about my personal life and like things I had going on at the time. So you can imagine, like, when I'm talking to his dad and him, and they really starting to, like, they don't know everything, but they starting to like learn some things about what's really going on at my home life and stuff. They was like, well, just keep us updated. Once everything was done and everything, they were telling me about opportunities and things I should do going out of high school, like for college and stuff like that. But yeah, it got to crunch time, and I remember I had told him, I was like, man, I don't got nowhere to go. I don't know what I'm finna do. So anyways, I tell him on the phone the same day I'm getting, put out or whatever. And he calls me, I think it was like an hour later. He was like, man, I talked to my dad. He was like, he don't agree with anything that how it was going about. He was like, man, so get your stuff and you gonna come stay with us for at least, a couple weeks, maybe this summer, until we could figure something out. So I ended up staying with them for a brief moment. I remember I was working over the summer. I had summer school too, because I ain't gonna lie, I was kind of struggling in my classes. So I had like 2 classes I had to take. And I was also working during the summer. So I was doing summer school and working. And yeah, so I stayed with him. The first week was cool. I was just kind of understanding how the household works and everything. I was just chilling. It was kind of like couch sitting, to be honest. But yeah, I was doing that. And his dad, I remember his dad was like, he was like supportive and stuff. Like, he was supportive. He was like, I respected him for, like, because he didn't have to do that. But yeah, as time went on, I'm hanging out with him because that's my boy at the end of the day. Like, we was still hanging out and stuff. And his dad would have one-on-one talks with me, like, what's your plan, this, that, and the third. I was trying to piece together a plan, but I didn't know exactly what I wanted to do. I know I was trying to stay in high school, finish, and I was trying to play football. Granted, I, wanted to take football as far as I can. But yeah, like, I kind of started slacking a little bit with summer classes, and his dad was like getting frustrated with me because he was like, how you gonna be trying to play football, this, that, and the third, and you barely cutting it. He was like, man, you need to do a little bit better. During the middle of this, he got in contact with my dad. I wasn't really close with my dad. But if I had to call him for an emergency, I would call him and tell him. Sometimes he would be, me and my dad ain't close either. That's a long story. But yeah, like, he called my dad because he asked me if I had talked to my dad, because like I'm getting like put out, like I need somewhere else to go. Why you didn't talk to your other parent? We're just gonna say he didn't step up. So when he talked to my dad, him and my dad kind of got into it because he like, you got your son out here and you're not stepping up as a father, this, that, and the third. My dad got mad at me talking about, you got this man, because he asked me to hand him the phone while they were talking, and he asked, my dad was upset with me. He was like, why you over here telling him this, that, and the third? Now he questioning me as a man and all this stuff, and talking about what I don't do as a father, this, that, and the third. In the back of my head, I'm like, he ain't lying. Like, you upset, but I mean, hey, the truth is the truth. Hate to tell you, but yeah. So yeah, that was that. And push came to shove. I mean, you know, I was staying with him and everything, but you know, him and his dad was like his dad more so. He was like, you know, I don't know, you know, the summer's starting to end. High school is finna start. My senior year is finna start. And he was just telling me like, yeah, this ain't gonna work. He was real upset with me too, because he was like, man, I thought by now, you know, you have a plan or something. And like I was telling him, my plan was to stay in high school, finish, play football. But he runs a strict household. You know, he has a way that he wants things run and things like that. And he said, I mean, he didn't really see me upholding to how he wants things done. And I never really like we didn't really clash, but like on certain things, like I remember before we had that conversation, he was like talking about like, you know, certain traumas I've been through and stuff like that. And I remember we had a conversation about, you know, he was talking about the way things are with my parents and stuff and how it could affect me and, you know, other stuff. But all I remember is he said something about like how I was going to have to get it together and things of that nature. But we was having a conversation like real personal. And I just remember he said something that like triggered me. Like, I'm not even gonna lie. Like, it made me upset. I was pissed. And I was just holding my tongue because, you know, I'm not finna just disrespect him as mad as I was. But I remember, like, I had went upstairs. He was like, you know, you don't go upstairs while I'm talking to you. Like, you know, this is my house and everything, which I understand. But I ain't know what else to do. I'm not finna, like, me not trying to break down because, like, I'm not trying to show my feelings of what I really feel. Like, I'm trying to be respectful. I'm not trying to go off on the dude. So I didn't really know any other way to do it. I just kind of shut down. So I remember going upstairs and he told his son to come get me, like that he wasn't finished talking with me and everything. And so that was when he made the decision that he said, you know, I was gonna have to leave the house. Like, I wasn't gonna be able to stay there. But like, you know, that was what that was. I'm gonna leave that there. But yeah, so going on to high school, I had been talking to the coaches at another school, Meadow Creek. I ended up transferring from Burkmar to Meadow Creek my senior year. And I was talking to the coaches all summer long, really, to be honest with you. And, you know, they were saying they could potentially help me out with my situation. You know, help me out. They didn't know what they could do, but they were going to try to help me. So anyways, going into my senior year, so the guy who I was staying with, we just gonna call him, I ain't gonna say his name, but we gonna call him Preston. Anyways, Preston, dad, you know, we was in the truck the day that he actually decided, like, you know, he was like, because he had been talking to the coaches too, and they were making all these promises and things. So in the middle of this going on, you know, he had talked to the coaches and was like, look, you know, this is his situation. I can't really stick in too much any more than what I've done. He was telling me, he was like, you might need to, you know, find another route, like going to the Army or working, potentially dropping out. But, you know, I can't really do this. So he was talking to the coaches, and he was talking to me after he got off the phone with the coach. He was like, look, you can continue to play football and hope that they help you out with your situation, or you can consider going into the military or something, like, you know, or getting a job, not really focus. I mean, I hate to say it, but not focusing more so on high school. So that was a conversation we had after the phone. I made a decision. I was going to stick it out. I was going to trust that they were going to help me out. So when I got out the truck, because I was, you know, talking to the coaches every now and then, staying like letting them know like what was going on and stuff. I remember I got dropped off with all my what bit of belongings I had at the time in a big trash bag. I'm trying not to cuss because it's gonna go on YouTube. In a big trash bag with a backpack. I'm just like, damn. I'm really putting my faith in hoping that this is gonna work. So I get to the field house, right? For those of you guys that don't know, the field house is where all the football players go the field house is connected to the stadium. That's where we go after practice, before practice, to lift, to get dressed for practice and stuff like that. So I go into the field house, and I go in, and some of the coaches are in there, and then there's this guy that's a part of the organization called Uncle Pigskin. Uncle Pigskin was actually the reason why I had somewhere to stay and why I was still playing football my senior year of high school. And I just remember they was like, he's been coming to practice and stuff. Oh yeah, so I already joined the team over the summer. I was going to practices over the summer and stuff. So it was like, he's been practicing with us. He already decided to transfer. Like, we got to help him out. And at the time, they were saying, like, we might have him just, like, sleep in the field house, to be honest with you, because I had a blow-up mattress. I was finna sleep in it. But they was like, man, we can't do that. So after them talking and stuff, and I got out the coach's office and stuff, they talked to somebody else, very good stand-up guy by the name of Tommy Scribbins. Him and his family was helping me out. So he talked to him, and it was he picked me up when I first met him. I was kind of just processing everything that had happened, because I was like, man, like, stability was not like something that I solidly had going on through my life. So I was used to stuff not following through like I needed it to. So when I met him, I introduced myself. He was like, I've been hearing good things about you. He was like, I hear you play football. I was like, yes, I do. And then he asked me to tell him about my story and what was going on. So I tell him about my story. That was a long story. He knows probably the most about me and what I went through. Not even just my senior year. Like, I had a lot of different things. Like, we're gonna talk about it. It's a lot of stuff, but he knows the most, we'll say. And I told him, first thing we did, we went to Walmart. I needed, because he was like, if you're gonna have somewhere to stay, we put you somewhere to stay, you need you some hygiene products, soap, all that, toothbrush, toothpaste, all this stuff. So, went into Walmart. He gave me, I think, some card. I think it was his card or it was cash. I can't remember. But I go in and I buy like a bunch of stuff, like everything, so I can make sure I'm good, because I didn't have nothing at the time. I come out, and then I ended up staying in a motel. So he drops me off in a motel. I think he picked me up the next day to talk to me and everything, because we were trying to figure out a plan of what I was going to do my senior year of high school. Like, school's finna start. And I, so that was the first part of my senior year. So going into my senior year, so I met him. He was kind of like taking care of me. I was moving around a lot, to be honest with you guys. I was living at one point. I was bumping around, moving around from what do you call it? What are those things called? Motel to motel, and he was paying for it, like motel to motel, like, and he was helping me out. Like, that's not, like, you don't hear about that too much, like, people doing stuff like that. And he tried to find like another way around it, because like another way to help, because doing that type of stuff, it's not very costly. We'll just say that. So I remember at one time I was staying with this guy. It was like a lot of some crazy shit. I was staying in basically it was a building that was no longer in service, but it still ran, like, the lights worked and everything, all that type of stuff. And they got like a bed. They bought me a bed and everything. The bed got put in there. Fixed it up like it was pretty much a room. Like, it was a fairly nice area. And I stayed there in that building for like, I want to say like a big portion of the semester. I don't know how long it was. It was during football season, though, I'll tell you that much. So at first it was that. Actually, no, I stayed in there for football season, and after that, that's when I was moving around from motel to motel. But yeah, so I was doing that. Kind of had like my own little room. it was crazy. I mean, to go from what I was going through to that, I was really just having a hard time processing it all, because I was like, man, you don't never hear about stuff like this, and for me to have a story like this, like. But yeah, I'm going through high school, and my senior year, you know, we getting ready to start the season, and going into the season like before like summertime going into the season, like I was doing good. Like physically I was doing good, athletically I was doing good. I was focused. Like I was taking football serious. I was locked in. Like even like I'm not gonna say the other guy's name because I mean I don't for context, but this tall black guy, everybody call him dang, what's his nickname? I can't even remember. But he's part of Uncle Pigskin too. Those of you that went to Meadow Creek, y'all probably know who I'm talking about. But we just gonna call him. Shit, I don't know. We just gonna say his name is Mike. His name is. Well, we're not gonna say that. His name is Mike. So, anyways, Mike, you know, he was at the practices. He was big, you know, big into the practice portion, helping with the drills and stuff. He was like, you know, seeing how I worked and like seeing like how I was doing and stuff like that, being a part of the drills. Like, so he actively seeing what the team looks like going into the season. And I remember feeling confident. I was feeling confident going into the season. And like I think the biggest downfall was not really. I mean, I was moving around a lot, and I had like stuff I was still dealing with, like trauma based and stuff. But like, I didn't. I felt like I had everything majority wise that I needed physically and athletically, but like mentally, like I wasn't really like all the way there. Like sometimes like during practice, I would just like, what's the term? I just would like lose focus and zone out. Like I remember like when coaches would go over a play with the running backs, and I understand the play, and then I was like some practices I would go, like mind you, we like weeks away from the season starting. We were going into the play, and I just remember my mind going blank. And so like some of the coaches was like, what's going on? Like what's going on? Like, and mentally I had a couple different things going on. I had like certain family members that I was trying to not deal with anymore, still trying to keep in contact, and I wasn't trying to deal with them. So that was like something that was like dragging on, that I was trying to leave in the past and move on from. But I just remember like a lot of it was like I say, I the way some things went in practice I didn't agree with. Some of the coaches like kind of was talking shit at one point, but I ain't gonna get into that. I'm not gonna 100% blame that on them. A majority of it was me. I remember some situations I didn't agree with how things went, but like I say, a lot of it's on you, because I mean, if you don't perform, that's how football is. Somebody will step up and take your spot, or really just take all the playing time. And when it got to the season, I started struggling with like anxiety and like performing, like because I would get in my head, like I was straight, like everything was good. Come game time or crunch time, like I was just underperforming well below what I should have been doing. And I still be like thinking about that, like sometimes, like, man, like the potential I had, like going into the season and what I could have made the season be for me. I was like, man, like don't get me wrong, I had some playing time, but like I had enough in me to turn from a high school prospect to a college player. But I mean, we'll continue into the story of how that went. Yeah, I just remember I had like a lot of performance issues because I would get into my head about I would get into my head a lot. I would just like sometimes be like, damn, do I know what I'm doing for like not in this like more so like confidence wise. Like I would just black out on plays. Like I remember, and so you know when you do stuff like that, like the coach ain't gonna continuously let you screw up. You know what I'm saying? So I stopped having as much playing time and stuff like that, which is why I didn't have enough film coming out of high school. But I had like, you know, all these things going on, and I never really developed a way to get through it. And I think that was kind of affecting me through what I love to do, which was to play football. But yeah, so going through football, I had a unique experience. I was moving from place to place, trying to figure it out, trying to figure out what I wanted to do after high school, as well as trying to figure out if I was going to work like during the off season or something, just so I have some money in my pocket. I remember my senior year, I started working at Publix. I worked during the summer, and then I had to quit like in the middle of the season, because like it was, man, I was tired from like school, football practice, and then after football practice, I go to work, I go to work. So I was like, yeah, I ended up quitting, doing that. But like, I'm not gonna sit up here and say like I didn't have no fun times in high school. I had some great times. Like the pep rallies was cool and stuff. Like, you know, practices, we did have good practices and stuff. Like I say, it was still a fun experience. Like, you know, high school, transferring to a whole different school your senior year, it could be like a lot. It can, but you know, I met different people. I made friends. You know, made some, lost some. You know, being a football player, you talk to a couple chicks, talk to a couple girls. You know, you have fun and stuff. So, you know, class was cool too. I had a couple fun teachers. I remember I think it was my algebra class. I had this one teacher. She was fine as hell. But anyway, like I had some cool classes. I made the best out of the situation. During school, aside from classes and stuff, I always made sure that I was trying to do my best to like eat right and stuff like that. I was the student with the big water jug walking around the whole building. People was like, dang, how you drink all that water? During lunchtime, I'd be eating a fat bowl of rice and beef. It'd be like, you got money? I'm like, nah, I ain't got money. I'm spending the money from my job that I'm working. Like, you know, but yeah, I was doing that, you know, trying to do some different things. I remember weight training class was fun too. Like, you know, hitting different like achievements and goals. Trying to remember what else was the weight training class like. Of course, at one point, when they first put me in weight training, I wasn't in the weight training that you're supposed to be in as a football player, because you're supposed to be in only a specific like weight training as a football player. You don't train with they have a specific period for the football players. And I was I think at first I was with the soccer, like the female soccer players or something like that, but my coach had got a hold of my schedule and fixed it for me. And I was training with the football with, you know, my teammates and stuff. I don't really remember too much about that. I remember at one point I was thinking about quitting football, because I was like, man, I'm underperforming and I feel like I ain't really getting no love. But, you know, and I remember I posted it on my spam, and I only had like maybe like 2 teammates and this one girl who was a trainer for the team that I was, anyways. And somebody had like told the rest of some of my teammates, and everybody like started, like in high school, stuff spread fast. And I mean, I only posted in my spam, but you know, when you post something, somebody gonna say something. Unfortunately, everybody got a big mouth. And I think it was the defensive coach. We was in weight training. We was in weight training, and the defensive coach found out, and I think he had mentioned it to me like after, because you know we was doing like the cool down after all the working out, and my teammate was talking about it, and my coach was talking. I think I'm trying to remember, somehow he found out. I don't think he didn't have like a one-on-one talk. But he said something. He was like, damn, like I can't remember what it was he said, but like he was like, damn, like you gonna quit? Like you just gonna give up like that? Like, and it was just frustrating because I felt like it wasn't gonna be like halfway through the season. I was like, I felt like I had put so much work in for it to not get me nowhere. So anyways, going through the season, it didn't stay like that. Going through the season, they, switched me around position-wise a little bit. But I was still playing and stuff. Didn't have enough for like tape and stuff. But yeah, so football ended and, we back in the off season. I'm just working out like everybody else. Towards the end of my year, track season starts. And when you play football, even if you're a senior, sometimes they don't care, but a lot of the time they will. If you play football, they're gonna force you to run track. So anyways, I ran track. I was a sprinter. I did that for a while. I started getting like, I'm not gonna say I was like crazy fast. I'm not finna say that, but I was doing well. I started off really slow. I ain't gonna lie. I started off slow. Cause I didn't have nobody train me like speed wise. Like I didn't really spend too much time. I was mostly in the weight room, and one thing about football, like speed kills. Like that's one thing I wish I had realized beforehand. Yeah, being strong is good, but like speed is like if you got speed and you have IQ, those are like the main things that take you further. You can get strength when you go to college. They gonna put the weight on you. I mean, from what I used to see with like all the D1 schools, they get meal plans, they get their own supplements, all that stuff. They gonna make sure you put on weight. But yeah, going in the track, I was kind of like it was a new experience. I'm doing speed training and stuff, like learning how to run more efficiently. Cause I knew how to run. I played football, and I knew how to run. Like I wasn't the fastest running back. I was probably, like the second or the third? I was like the second or the third fastest. Anyway, yeah, so going to the track, that's a different world, because like, no, I was like the third fastest. But anyways, going into track, it was a lot of competition. Like some people that ran track, we had this one dude that came from another school. He ran track but didn't tell nobody for like a little minute. But anyways, going into track, it's a different depth chart. So going into it was a new experience. You learn about the mechanics. You learn about like block starts. Like I don't know if you know, but when you run track, you gotta learn how to like set your feet on a block. You gotta learn how to, when you running off a block, right? You can't just pop your head up. You gotta learn how to ease your head up as you're running. You gotta learn how to angle your body and head when you running around the curve and stuff like that that I learned that I didn't know about. They teach you different techniques on like what makes you faster. One thing I remember is one of the keys to becoming faster is what was it? You want to get your feet down as quick as possible is one of the things I learned. But it's like, how do I explain it? So speed is determined by how many steps it takes you to get from point A to point B. The goal is to get from point A to point B with less steps. So that's where they teach you about stride, your stride, right? So if you're taller, stride is something that's really gonna help you. Stride is, hold on, I got a phone call. I gotta decline this. So stride, right? Learning about using your stride. Everybody has a natural stride, but you really got to learn like how to use your length, right? Especially if you're tall. So the goal is learning how to, keep I'm trying to remember, you keep your hips going forward, pushing forward. I'm trying to think, like hips up, chin down and tucked. I remember one thing I was taught was you don't want to grab. So when you're running, right, your arms, right, you want to run at kind of like this, right? like this. And you want to keep your elbow in tight. Like, this is just technique stuff I was taught, but like all this stuff is like new to me, right? I'm not used to this. So, you know, it was a fun experience. Like, midway through track, I started getting a little bit faster. Like, I was learning, I was catching on, and I remember I started having like small injuries, like, and then I had an injury, like I think I rolled my ankle at one point, and then I just was using ice every day. But I ran track, and when I started actually getting, I'm not gonna say fast, but I started getting, you could see the potential coming in. We'll say that. I injured my hamstring, my left hamstring. I had like I can't remember what grade of a tear, but it wasn't like the tear, but it was close to it. I remember I ran 400. I don't run 400s. I ran the 200, the 100, and the 4x2. And I did the 400 after. I did the 400 after I had already did my events, and I was sore, and my hamstring was sore. Anyways, I was sore. I'm running the 400. I'm gassed. I'm tired. I'm not going for no time. I'm just trying to do it. Anybody knows when they come to track, they be throwing you in events. They don't care. So I'm doing the event, right? Let me center myself. So I'm doing the event, and I'm coming around the corner just gassed. I'm around like the 250 going to 300 mark. I reached the 300 mark, and I hear something snap, like tear almost. I'm like, oh shit. So I dropped to the ground on the track. I didn't even finish at that point. I dropped. So I started limping. No, I started limping, and then I fell. And then I went to the table, like the table where they roll. They got like a roller. They massage or roll out your hamstring. So I had got my hamstring rolled out, and the coach was like, what's the matter with you? I was like, it's my hamstring. He was like, it'll be all right, you know, because it was my track coaches were my football coaches. They weren't like just track coaches. They were my football coaches. So you know how that went. They tough on you. So they thinking I'm just, you'll be all right. They rolled out my hamstring. I'm like, nah. Nah. Like, I'm getting up and I'm still limping. I'm like, yo, something's wrong. So anyway, this is like a quarter into the season. I want to say like a quarter into the season. My hamstring started swelling up. Like I was limping. And they tried to get me to carry the cooler back or whatever. Cause you know they try to tell, they have somebody, they'll pick somebody differently every other track meet to help like wheel like the drinks or whatever the hell in the cooler. I was like, nah. They was upset with me. I'm like, nah, I ain't finna do that. Like, no. So anyways, they was yelling my name. I remember we was getting on the bus. It was 2 buses because the team was like decently sized. They was like, Nathan. They was yelling my name. I kept walking. They got mad at me. And when somebody caught up to me, I think it was one of my teammates ran up to me. It was like, the coach calling you. I was like, I ain't finna do Wait, no, I'm good. Especially when they threw me in that 400. When I don't run 400s, I'll do it for like warm-ups, right? But you're not running full speed at a warm-up. We do 400s. Really, we do 2 400s as warm-up at practice. But I was like, man, I ran full speed. I gave it my all, and I knew I was sore. I was not trying to do more events, and they threw me in that event, and it messed me up. I was like, bro, nah. So I was just blowing. I just kept walking, to be honest with you. And I remember I was like dealing with so much pain. I was like standing, like just holding my thing. So I stopped walking, going to the bus. And one of the coaches caught up with me. He was like, now you know you're supposed to carry the cooler, right? I was like, but my hamstring, this, that, and the third. He was like, man, you'll be all right. Come carry it. I was like, but coach, you don't understand. Like, he was not trying to hear it. So eventually I ended up carrying it. But I was upset because I think no. I think somebody else carried it most of the way. Yeah, most of the way or something like that. But yeah, I was mad. I'm like, you got me over here trying to do all this when I'm hurt. Like, but anyways, we went back to the field house that night, got on the bus. I remember my stuff was swollen. Anyways, I can't remember how I figured it out. I can't remember if I just remember my hamstring was swollen, and I went to. Did I go to the hospital? Where did I go? I went somewhere to figure out that my hamstring. I had like a grade 2 tear. Cause like I can't remember if it's lower or higher is the worst, but I had the middle level, which is right before you actually tear your shit, like tear it. So anyway, I was limping, like I couldn't even walk straight, like it was bad. But anyways, that was that. I ended up was I on crutches? I'm trying to remember. I just remember I couldn't walk straight. At one point I was on crutches, but was that? I think that was when I rolled my ankle during football. Yeah, I wasn't on crutches then. I can't remember. It's been a minute. But yeah, anyways, that was that part. Anyways, I came back from the injury and I tried to come back into track. And when I came back, I started doing better. I had healed up. I was training. I missed like 3-4 weeks. Practice and meets, all that. Came back, decent. After like 2 weeks, the pain started going away, the swelling went away. Halfway into the 3rd week, I'm like, okay, I could walk straight. I can almost jog. The third week, I really when it hit the 3rd week, I started running. Just regular running, jogging, trying not to run without a limp. Yeah. Cause the other thing is when you run track meets, they do give you breaks. In football, you play like every week or every 2. You play every week for the most part. Like until like the playoffs and stuff, you'll have like a 2-week break or something like that. But yeah, I came back and I started running and I started doing better. I came back to practice and everything. But I didn't finish the whole practice the first time I came back because it started flaring up again. It started hurting again. So yeah, I did that, and yeah. Anyways, I started getting back to full health. I remember the coach was telling Uncle Pigskin, Tommy, that like, hey, he's not finishing practice. So it was like, he was getting on me talking about, well, are you sure you're good? Because if you're not good, like, either you practice or you don't practice. Like, what's going on? Like, you got to finish. I was like, yeah, they just pushing me too much. Like, I'm trying to get better, but I'm not trying to go to the point where I'm practicing and it's hurting me more than it's benefiting me. But, yeah, I got through that. I started doing better. And then I injured it again. After I injured it again, I was like, nah, this ain't gonna work. So anyways, track season ended and we getting ready for graduation. Going into graduation, all the guys that have offers, they what do you call it? They got like commit day, like where they sign off and who they going to and revealing who they committing to. I remember watching some of my teammates, committing, signing the paper. You got your hat. You're going to put on your hat of what team you're going to. They might take off their jacket. They wearing a shirt of the college they're going to. I was proud of them. I was happy for them, clapping and everything, went to it. I was like, damn, like, I might have to go JUCO or something because I'm still trying to play ball. Like, anyways, I didn't have, going out of high school, I didn't have no offers. So I was like, damn, am I going to go JUCO? What am I going to do? A prep academy. I ended up going to a prep academy. I got an offer, but it's not really an offer for real. They'll tell you it's an offer. Me kind of being a little like, man, I need something. So I took advantage of it quicker and then processing like what they really was about. Anyway, I go to that prep academy and I got some money because my dad was paying child support and I had the card for child support, like the money or whatever. So I was using the money. I was going to use the rest of the money. My mom had given up the card to me, so I was using it. And I was like, he had told me he got like 3 more months left of the money left. He can either give it all to me at one time to use for whatever I decide to use it on. And at the time, I was just going to take that money and go to the school because,, you know, you still got to pay the school to be a part of the program, or school. You still got to pay the school to be a part of the program. And at the time, I was just going to take that money and go to the school because, you know, you still got to pay the school to be a part of the program, or school. You still got to pay the school to be a part of the program. And at the time, I was just going to take that money and go to the school because, you know, you still got to pay the school to be a part of the program, or school. You still got to pay the school to be a part of the program. And at the time, I was just going to take that money and go to the school because, you know, you still got to pay the school to be a part of the program, or school. You still got to pay the school to be a part of the program. And at the time, I was just going to take that money and go to the school because, you know, you still got to pay the school to be a part of the program, or school. You still got to pay the school to be a part of the program. And at the time, I was just going to take that money and go to the school because, you know, you still got to pay the school to be a part of the program, or school. You still got to pay the Come to find out, it's not a school. You practice with the team, and you have to go to like a small college. So I was going to try to go to GGC. So you take classes at GGC online. They have all the players take the classes online, and you try to get Pell Grant to cover it, or something, FAFSA, Pell Grant, whatever, to cover it or pull out a loan. But you're a part of that program, as far as like they have like a Airbnb where you stay. They had like rented out three Airbnbs. So with my teammates, we stayed in different housings and stuff like that, and we would practice. And when we practiced, I remember just like going into it, like I didn't start putting stuff together until like it was too late. I'm like, yo, this stuff is not legit. Because before I graduated, they were telling me one thing. I get into the program, it's a whole different story. Like I wasn't doing good in practice. Like I was, I started doing decent with practice, but I had to pick up a job after I graduated. So I was working at Walmart while I was practicing, and I was trying to go to school, and I couldn't afford to pay the rent at the Airbnb. So I was telling the coach, like, hey, like, is it okay if I miss a couple practices so I can work? Because I can't pay you guys, rent and stuff. And then you also have to pay. I had like a little bit more tuition left I had to pay. They call it tuition, but it's fees. It was like, man, they just did not have my back. They didn't really care, to be honest with you. Like, and I remember telling Tom, he was telling me, he told me the program seemed a little sketchy from his viewpoint. And, being out of high school, you're just trying to figure something out. You kind of just going with it because you're still trying to make your dream a reality. So they was promising us, we going to get you film. We going to get you sent off to a college. We're going to help you do good. It may not be D1, but D2 or D3. It was so many things about that program that was ghetto. I remember the day that I left, they was kicking everybody out the Airbnb because the coach didn't pay the tenant. So I had already stopped working, but during the day I actually left the program, I had stopped going to practice anyway, because I'm like, man, if I can't pay them rent or the rest of my fees I had to pay, what am I doing? So now I'm trying to figure out what's my next move, because I can't stay in the program. And then secondly, the program was sketchy, man. I wish I had seen it before. But yeah, so I left the program. It was a lot of things about it that I disagree with, but I left the program, and I ended up staying with I called him a brother, but he's not really my brother for real, by blood. But I was a part of this program called Big Brothers Little Sisters, something like that. It's like a mentor program. I called him. I was like, hey, I can't go stay with so-and-so, which is my parents and stuff. Can't depend on them. So I don't know what I'm gonna do. He was like, you still working? I was like, nah, I'm not even working. I had to quit because I was missing too many practices. If you miss too many practices, they're gonna kick you off the team. So I had stopped showing up to work, and they let me go or whatever. But I was like, man, why am I coming to this team? They're not even gonna work with me over the fact that I can't pay. So it's like, I gotta make a move because I can't stay with them. So I ended up staying with him. I ain't gonna lie, he was hard. Like, it was tough love, but some of the stuff he said, he would throw in my face, about what I went through with my parents and stuff. Like he would kind of stand up for him, and I wouldn't agree with him. I'm like, yo, he throwing this stuff in my face. I need to rework things out with these people, this, that, and the third. And I'm like, okay, if that's the case, I can do that maybe sometime down the line. But considering what recently happened and everything that happened, now ain't the time if I'm going to consider doing that. I'm trying to get my life back together. And these people ain't people I can depend on. The amount of stuff I dealt with, I'm not trying to put myself in a situation that's going to put me in a worse situation. I'm not saying I have many choices, but why would I put myself in a situation that can make my life 10 times worse? So anyways, yeah, he let me stay with him for, I think it was At first it was 3 weeks, and then he told me, you know, I was gonna have to figure something out. Like he was like, "You 19, you got to figure something out." I wasn't 20 yet. He was like, "Man, you 19, bro. You got to figure it out. Like you a grown ass man." I was like, "Yeah, you're right." He was like, "Look, I might give you another week, but you need to start working more. You need to get some money saved up. You don't need to be spending none of your money." Man, it got to the 5th week. He was like, "Look, I can't have you staying here no more. It's a storage unit. You know, it's a storage unit that I own, you know, as his unit. Like each tenant, they get a storage unit." He was like, "Look, you can stay in the storage unit. I ain't gonna tell nobody. You pay me $100 a month. You stay there, you work, and you figure something out. You know, you go to school, you go to." He was trying to convince me to go to the military. I wasn't trying to do that. So anyway, to wrap it up, you know, I ended up staying in that storage unit for a little while. And at one point I had went to a homeless shelter trying to see if I could get like better, like it was a better situation, but I didn't stay with that. I had went for like a couple of weeks, like I think like a month or two, but they had like different things. Like I was working and they had like curfews and stuff. I'm like, if I'm working, how am I supposed to work and make the curfew? Cause like I can only do so much with the hours I'm given, and I'm telling them like that's one of the stipulations. You gotta have a job if you stay in there. That's one of their rules. I'm like, okay, cool. So when I got there, they have you fill out. They make you get like the like a shot or something, like you know, I think they tried to make you get like the COVID shot or something, and then like a I don't even remember, but yeah. So and then they have like a debriefing, they call it. So I did that shit and I stayed there, but I was like, man, I would mind you, I still had the fuck, what is it called? The storage unit. So I was going back and forth. This is when I was staying in Atlanta. The first time, not the more recent time, but the first time I was staying in Atlanta. So anyways, I was catching the MARTA, I was catching the bus. They'll give you like a car, like a bus card or whatever, but it only got so many, you know, amount of money on there. So I'm going back and forth. The whole time I could stay at the, you know, the storage unit, but I'm like, I'm gonna try them. So I stayed with them, and every now and then, like I was holding my stuff, like my cologne, my shoes, my clothes, all my personal belongings was in there. So anyways, like I remember sometime before I would catch the train back to the shelter, I would go to my, you know, my unit and pick up one of my bottles of cologne or something and take it with me, or whatever it was I felt I needed to go back and get. But I was like, man, I remember one time I think I was finna stay the night, and they had got mad and they was getting ready to kick me out of the program. I'm like, man, they are really strict. Like it's like they pushing it down, they pushing it down your throat that they want you to succeed. You can't stay here forever. It's a time, an age range of the people that can stay there. But it's like they had so many rules. It was like, don't get me wrong, you gotta have like structure, but like they want you can't bring your own food. That was another thing. I was working, I had 2 jobs. One job was at Whole Foods, one job was at Kava, and I left Kava to work at First Watch at one point. But I was bringing food because I'm like, man, I'm finna eat this bullshit when I work at a job. Like, so sometimes I would bring food from the thing to the shelter. Man, they had a problem with that. So I'm like, okay, you know, I'm like, all right, sometime they'll just let you eat it outside because, you know, I forget, or, you know, and I remember talking to some of the what do you call it? Some of the, like the staff members or whatever you want to call it. And they ended up making certain exceptions for me. I mean, I know they kind of sound crazy, but they did. I thought I was good. Come to find out, the higher up, it was other people, other staff members that were like, nah, he ain't special. Like, what is he? So anyways, that became a problem, and I ended up getting kicked out. But I left before I got kicked out. I just didn't come back. But I remember they wrote me a note. No. So it was the day I got kicked out. But I wasn't trying. I was like, man. Anyways, they wrote me a letter talking about, oh, this, that, and the third. I was like, man, I got somewhere else to go. I don't even care. So was doing that. I remember around Christmas time, it got really cold. And I was talking to Tom at one point, and it was Christmas. I ended up telling him like what had happened, like, cause me and him didn't talk for a while, like just because he had a lot going on and stuff he runs his own business. But yeah, so at that point I started sleeping in my car, just trying to figure it out. Like at this point I had started going to GGC. I was doing that and I was working. And at first I had the Pell Grant, but like I couldn't, it was crazy. I couldn't focus. I couldn't this, that, and the third. But yeah, that was more so recent. But anyways, more currently, right, like what's going on now? Like I just realized like I'm doing all this struggling. Like I got a place now. Like I'm staying somewhere now. I've been staying somewhere for a little minute. But like, if I'm gonna struggle, I need to struggle knowing what the goal is. So for this long story of what I was saying, this story is not the end of my story. I still got plenty of life left to go. Like, but going forward, like I was like, man, I need to figure something out. Like working a 9 to 5 was supposed to just be a stepping stone to what I was gonna do. But if I can't do college right now, I was like, man, the way finance is looking, I want to be successful. This ain't the end at all. I'm gonna be successful for sure, by any means. So, with that being said, I'm going into the military. The military. I haven't figured out which branch. It's gonna be either the Air Force or the Army, more so potentially. Still trying to figure that out. I gotta talk to a recruiter. But I'll be leaving soon, I would say at least within a month or so, maybe less. But yeah, I'm gonna figure that part out. But yeah, get some benefits, have somewhere to stay, rent free. Depending on what you go in as. But yeah, it's time to go in, for a couple years. I'm trying to see if I can find a shorter contract. Of course, you ain't gonna get a contract shorter than 3 years. That's not realistic, unless you was like, from what I know, unless you were already in the military and you re-enlist, that they give those people the shorter contract. But when you sign up, it's mandatory. I think like 4 years or something. But anyways, my goal is to go in, do what you gotta do, get what comes with it, and figure out what happens afterwards. I ain't gonna stay, but it's a stepping stone. It's something to give me security, which is what my goal is, short term. And yeah, it's not who I am or what I'm doing for the whole rest of my life, but it's gonna put me in a better situation. It's gonna set me up so I can do what I want to do. So yeah, man. Like I said, stay tuned. This ain't the last of it. This is just the beginning. And all those, trials and tribulations is really just, it's a part of my story, and I'm grateful that I got it. Sometimes it can be hard, and you can't really. Sometimes you can't see it for what it is until you get to the later parts in life. But I know I know it's gonna make for a good story, a good experience. Like for when I have, like that maybe if I want to be a mentor, like I got a unique story in different ways that I've dealt with things that I know how to help people with, like. Yeah, like, and it's gonna be a positive thing. I'm gonna let this build me. This ain't nothing to just defeat me by any means, no. But yeah, man, I wanted to tell y'all somewhat of my story. I just want to inspire, man. I want to inspire. Yeah, this is what I got going on, and I'm gonna keep you guys posted. Everything that I got going forward, I'll keep you guys as updated as I can. But yeah, just be patient with me, and also, if y'all have ideas for videos, let me know. I'm still interested. Let me know. What are some things you want me to discuss, topics, what type of videos you guys want me to do more so. But yeah, I want to interact with you guys, get to know you guys more. But yeah, man, as always, It's your boy, Big Nate, aka Nate the Great. And with that being said, I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.
I wrote my way out. When the world turned its back on me,